Welcome back to Exploring Shasta County History. Today we're at Reading Memorial Park at a very famous burial, which is right over here. Paying our respect to that of Archibald Campbell. He's a circus performer belonging to that of John Robinson Circus, and he is buried right here. As you will learn, he is not the only member of John Robinson Circus buried here in the cemetery. There is one other, and we'll dive into that information shortly. Previously dreaming of a career in the circus to become a famous circus clown under the big top in front of sold-out audiences nationwide was Archibald Campbell's dream. He eventually got his chance while attending a circus event in Bethany, Virginia one night in June of 1854. During the last performance of the show, he searched for the owner, John Robinson, and he was able to perform his talents in front of him that night. Robinson was impressed enough, though he had employed a clown called Lolo the Clown, who was a rising star. Yet Robinson decided that he could use backup in case of emergencies. This is how Campbell got his start in circus performing upon his rise to fame. The John Robinson Circus was one of the most famous, talented, and unique traveling shows in the nation. Archibald Campbell immediately departed Bethany with the circus performers that night without looking back. Campbell became famously known as Archie the Clown. During his service, Campbell served with the 14th Illinois Cavalry, and he was captured by the rebels on the ill-starred Stillman Raid in 1864. He was imprisoned at the infamous Andersonville Prison, a military prison near Andersonville, Georgia, during the war. However, due to Archibald Campbell's fame, special rules and regulations were given to the soldier in which he was able to survive the deadliest prison of the entire War of the Rebellion. He was later exchanged for prisoners by the Union Army, and he immediately went back to his career under the big top. John Robinson's Great Show. This evening, the veteran showman, John Robinson, will be here with his mammoth institution that he will meet with a hearty welcome from the circus-going people of Charleston. As a foregone conclusion, we clip the following from the Richmond Dispatch. These institutions frequently visit and are a prominent feature of our amusements. We always notice them according to their merit, and have made it a rule to do. The various exhibitions that have visited us justice. The public are fond of such entertainments, and quite properly so withal. Those who oppose this class of entertainments, because it may have been their fate at some time to witness an inferior exhibition, a kind of fungus growth on the circus system, are not the persons who represent enlightened public opinion on the subject. We regard the amphitheater as the nearest resemblance our people have to the ancient Greeks, it being the correlative to the Isthmian, Olympian, and Pythian games of Greece, festivals held in the highest estimation by that intelligent people, and handed down to us by the historian as worthy of imitation by us moderns. In the notices we've given of John Robinson's Circus and Menagerie at present being exhibited in the city, we are more complimentary than usual because of its great excellence. Mr. Robinson, in addition to being an unequaled caterer to the public taste in the matter of amusements, is also a gentleman and is not less at home in the management of the affairs of his colossal establishment than in the society of the cultivated and refined. He is a man of wealth, a patriotic and public-spirited gentleman. In his exhibition we have seen no feature that could offend the most fastidious or that was not per se highly artistic. We mention the gentlemanly clown, Mr. Lubon, and desire to thank him in behalf in the discriminating public for his wit and gentility and absolute freedom from grossness. Also, Mr. Campbell, in the same line of business, the tightrope performance by Pranas is especially good. Marietta Ravel, in our opinion, is far surpassed by her. Messengers Bernard, Johnson, and Wilson are pleasing and prompt, proficients in their line. In truth, the quick and rushing performance of Robinson's Circus identify it as an individual affair, all stamped with the genius of Robinson, unexcelled in the ensemble and preeminent in all its parts. Remember to look out today for one of the most imposing street parades ever witnessed in this city. John Robinson Circus. John Robinson Circus and Egyptian Caravan will make its appearance tomorrow, giving one performance. This is a combination of several distinct shows, which united under one canvas form one of the largest and most complete exhibitions in the country. It is a circus and menagerie, combined, the whole being furnished for 75 cents. The press everywhere speak of the show in terms of praise, pronouncing it complete in every regard and worthy of the great patronage bestowed. Go to the circus tomorrow night. The above article is from the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper of Cincinnati, Ohio, April 7th, 1869. Robinson Circus and Menagerie establishment was crowded last night to its utmost capacity. Only seats were full. It was impossible to find standing room. At least 500 people were returned satisfied and disappointed the door. Success of Mr. Robinson, owing to the fact that he has now the finest, most complete exhibition on the continent. Of the bareback equestrian Miss Cordelia, truly parable, is only equaled to the beautiful act of Quai and his dancing leads, Stonewall and Grey Eagle. Frances, in her equestrian exercises, Frank is somersault, Adelaide, and El Nino Willie, where the Puritan pony performance. Sloman, with his barrel Trenco, La Petite marks in her daring and dazzling fights equitation, each in all perfection. Frank Robinson, high marks, and Archie Campbell are witty, original, and the best clown sawdust arena. Menagerie, including B. Camel, Tap Hares, Polar Bear, is all that experience and capital can possibly make it. 4 more days remain to see this best circus menagerie entertainments. Campbell the Clown of Robinson Circus 2 years ago was a deckhand between this city and Cincinnati. We merely mention it to show what a pinnacle of fame may be reached, even by a steamboat man. This makes the second riverman who has turned clown successfully. The other one, alluded to, is Mark Twain. 5 great clowns will appear in the ring of old John Robinson's Menagerie and Circus Saturday next, May 6th in Kansas City. John Lolo, young Sam Stickney, Archie Campbell, William Conrad, and Frank Robinson, who will create fun and merriment for the million. On the evening of July 31st, 1882, in Redding, Shasta County, California, the John Robinson Circus, who were touring the nation at that time, held a show in that city. However, it would be the last show Campbell would ever perform in, as he died from consumption. Was mistaken to be that of John Lowe, a circus performer who's also known as Lolo the Clown, but it was corrected at a later date by the local media. At the time, even though Archie was paid through John Robinson, he didn't have enough money to commemorate his burial with a headstone or to buy himself a plot to be buried at the time of his death. And eventually, it was brought to the attention of the local Reading Independent Order of Oddfellows, Welcome Lodge number 271, to make a push for a plot within the Reading Cemetery, now known today as Reading Memorial Park. Yet, in the end, the local Order of Oddfellows at Reading persuaded the John Robinson Circus to purchase his plot in the Reading Cemetery and to erect a headstone in remembrance of Archie Campbell. Memorial Park, it shows Archie Campbell as being the main owner of the 4 plots near him at the time of his death. But knowing that Archie couldn't afford them, it's safe to say the plots were purchased by John Robinson Circus, owned the plots to this day, since they always toured in Reading, and at any time, death could occur without notice. He led an honorable career in which would eventually land him in the International Circus Hall of Fame Museum in Peru, Indiana. This article from the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper, Cincinnati, Ohio, August 24th, 1874 edition of that newspaper. At the start, it talks about Archibald Campbell being a descendant of the ancient Scotch house of the Duke of Argyll. Talks about Archie Campbell's opinion on the wild black hogs of North Carolina. This is an extremely long obituary for the famous Archibald Campbell of John Robinson's Circus, that famous circus clown. An old clown dead. It was not Johnny Lolo, the clown of John Robinson Circus, that died at Reading, as the following will show. Dan Rice told the Record representative of the death of the veteran clown Archie Campbell at Reading, California. Campbell was a nephew of Dr. Alexander Campbell, founder of the Disciple Church, and had himself been educated for the ministry in his youth. He had for some time been a sufferer from consumption and came to California with the company in the hope of some relief in our balmy climate. It was too late, however, and he passed away Sunday night. The funeral was held at 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Reverend I.N. Waterman conducting the services. The entire circus attended, and the sad procession was headed by the circus band. Many citizens of Reading also attended and mingled their sympathy with that of the company. The above newspapers from the Republican Free Press newspaper, Redding, California, from August 4th, 1883. Notice the ad for Zenobia, who the next section of this video is about. When John Robinson Circus purchased these plots for their performers, may have been the best decision they made, because on August 25th, 1883, another member of John Robinson Circus came to a tragic death when he was performing live on stage in a circus stunt under the big top. That night, in front of a sold-out show in Redding, a performer named Zenobia, whose real name was Thomas Williams, a native of Ohio, catapulted himself from a catapult to his death at 20 feet into the air, while landing on his neck and breaking it. A tragic end for the Daredevil performer. A horrified crowd watched in disbelief. It was only a year since Archie the Clown died of consumption, which brought Archie back into the limelight statewide in California media outlets, who remembered the former star when writing about the death of Zenobia. Zenobia, the actor in John Robinson Circus, who was thrown from the catapult through space, met with a severe accident while performing in Reading last Wednesday night. When the catapult was sprung, he was hurled headlong in the air and came down, gliding almost squarely on his head. Dr. Miller, who was called to his assistance, pronounced his injuries serious, though not necessarily fatal, as no internal injuries were perceptible. Mr. Lolo, the clown, informs us that Zenobia has performed in this capacity for some 2 years, and this is the first injury he has sustained. This act has been performed by many artists in other circuses for a number of years, and by the injured man for over 2 years in John Robinson's show without accident. But like all acrobats and gymnasts, he became careless and did not attend strictly to his part of the arrangements. No blame can be attached to anyone. Since the above was in type, the young man, whose true name was Williams, has died, and his body placed beside the remains of Archibald Campbell. Upon examination, it was discovered that his neck was broken. What is known about the burial of Zenobia is that Thomas Williams is buried on either side of Archibald Campbell. It's not known exactly which site is his burial site. However, contacting Brady Memorial Park to get somebody to probe to see if we could find and locate the exact spot. However, without the proper permission from the ownership of the lots, whether that be Archibald Campbell's estate or the John Robinson Circus, it would be hard to do. He is buried either here on this side of Archibald Campbell, or he is buried on this side of Archibald Campbell. Someday I hope Brady Memorial Park gets permission to probe for the burial of Zenobia, because someday I would like to see them place a headstone at this location dedicated to the memory of Zenobia. The dead circus man. Zenobia, the circus man who met his death at Reading last week, was buried by the side of Archie Campbell, the clown, who died 1 year ago in Reading. When the news was telegraphed to Willows, where the circus was performing, the performers took charge of the catapult, chopped it to pieces, and burned it. The above newspapers from the Free Press newspaper of Reading, August 25th, 1883. The show. Old John Robinson Circus performed in Reading Wednesday afternoon and evening to a large and appreciative audience. Our streets were thronged with people, and many were the expressions of approval of the action of the supervisors regarding the free bridge. The sentiment seemed to be all one way. But to return to the show, the performance was even better than last year. The daring acts of Zola elicited both wonder and admiration, and the bareback riding was splendid. Holland successfully performed the feat of jumping onto the horse's back while the animal was rapidly circling the ring. The clown, Lolo, confound him, was too funny for any use. Many new and strange animals were exhibited, and the tattooed woman was true to the pictures. The sideshow of the circus, strange to say, was well worth the money. Following the show in the afternoon, the troupe went down to the cemetery where Archie Campbell was buried, and the band played several appropriate pieces, and the grave was decorated with flowers. Alright folks, if you haven't yet, please like, share, and comment on the YouTube video, and please smash that subscribe button.